My sister convinced my parents I'm mentally unstable to try and get power of attorney over my apartment. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some perspective from people who aren't emotionally invested in my family drama. My name is Michael, I'm 28, and what started as subtle family weirdness has spiraled into something that feels like a coordinated attack on my independence and sanity. It began about 6 months ago. I just closed on my first apartment, a modest but nice 2-bedroom place in a gentrifying neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd saved for years, working overtime at my accounting firm, skipping vacations, living like a monk in a studio apartment to make this happen. When I finally got the keys, I felt like I'd achieved something real. My sister Jennifer was the first to react strangely. She's 2 years older than me, works in pharmaceutical sales, and has always been the successful one in our parents' eyes. When I showed her the apartment, expecting congratulations, she just walked through each room with this calculating look, asking pointed questions about the mortgage, the down payment, my monthly expenses. "Are you sure you can handle this, Michael?" she kept saying. "It's a big responsibility. Maybe you should have consulted the family first." I brushed it off. Jennifer had always been controlling, always acted like she knew better. Growing up, she'd correct my homework even when hers had more mistakes, tell our parents I needed extra help with things I was perfectly capable of doing myself. I figured this was just more of the same. Her inability to accept that her little brother had accomplished something significant without her input. But then our parents started acting differently too. Sunday dinners became interrogations disguised as concern. "How are you sleeping, honey?" my mother Patricia would ask, studying my face like she was looking for symptoms of something. "You look tired. Are you taking care of yourself?" My father Robert would chime in with questions about work stress, asking if I was handling the pressure okay, in ways he never had before. The questions seemed innocent enough individually, but collectively they painted a picture of people who thought something was wrong with me. I started dreading family gatherings, feeling like I was under a microscope. Every yawn was noted, every moment of distraction became significant, every joke that didn't land perfectly was met with exchanged glances I wasn't supposed to notice. 3 weeks ago, things escalated. I was at work when my colleague Brian pulled me aside. "Hey, weird question," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Your sister called HR asking about your attendance record. Said she was concerned about your well-being, and wanted to know if you've been missing work or acting strange." HR shut her down, obviously, but I thought you should know. I was stunned. Jennifer had crossed a line, trying to involve my workplace in whatever narrative she was building. When I confronted her that evening, she played innocent. "I'm just worried about you, Michael. You've seemed so stressed lately, and with the new apartment and everything. I wanted to make sure you weren't overwhelming yourself." "By calling my job?" I demanded. "Jennifer, that could have gotten me in trouble. What were you thinking?" She just gave me that patronizing smile she'd perfected over the years. Sometimes people who are struggling don't realize they need help. "I'm just looking out for you." Main development. The conversation with Jennifer left me unsettled, but I tried to push it aside and focus on work and settling into my new place. That lasted exactly 1 week before the next incident shattered any illusion that this was normal sibling concern. I'd invited our parents over for dinner at my apartment, partly to show them I was doing fine, partly because I genuinely wanted to share my new space with them. I spent the whole day preparing, making my mother's favorite lasagna recipe, setting the table with the good dishes I'd bought specifically for occasions like this. I wanted everything to be perfect, to show them I was thriving. They arrived 30 minutes early. "We wanted to help you set up," my mother said, though everything was already ready. Jennifer was with them, uninvited. "I thought we could make it a family dinner," she explained, breezing past me into the apartment. The evening started awkwardly. They complimented the food, but in that careful way people use when they're humoring someone. Jennifer kept steering the conversation toward my daily routines. "So you're cooking for yourself regularly? Not just living on takeout?" She made it sound like basic self-care was an achievement worth noting. Then she started what I now recognize was a carefully orchestrated performance. "Michael, I've been meaning to ask, are you still having those episodes?" I nearly choked on my wine. "What episodes?" She tilted her head with practiced concern. "You know, those times when you get confused? Like last month when you called me at 2 a.m. talking about someone following you." "That never happened," I said flatly. "Jennifer, I've never called you at 2 a.m. in my life." She exchanged a meaningful look with our parents. My mother reached across the table to pat my hand. It's okay if you don't remember, sweetheart. These things happen when we're under stress. Nothing happened because it didn't happen. I pulled my phone out. Look, I can show you my call history. Michael, my father interrupted gently, getting defensive isn't helping. We're not attacking you. We're concerned. The rest of the dinner was a nightmare. Every denial I made was met with sad, understanding looks. Every attempt to prove Jennifer was lying was treated as further evidence of my confusion. By the time they left, I felt like I'd been gaslit in my own home. The next morning, I called my best friend David, who's a paralegal. I need you to help me understand something, I said, and laid out everything that had been happening. His silence after I finished was deafening. Mike, he finally said, this sounds like your sister is building a case for something. The workplace inquiry, the false stories about episodes, getting your parents on board. Has she mentioned anything about power of attorney or guardianship? The words hit me like ice water. No, but she kept asking about my mortgage payments, my finances. Document everything, David advised urgently. Every interaction, every false claim. Start recording conversations if you're in a one-party consent state. This could get ugly. I took his advice and started keeping detailed notes. I also did something I'd never thought necessary. I changed all my passwords, put fraud alerts on my credit, and made sure Jennifer wasn't listed as an emergency contact anywhere. It felt paranoid, but David's warning echoed in my head. 2 days later, I discovered I wasn't paranoid enough. My neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, knocked on my door. Michael, dear, I wanted to let you know someone was here earlier asking questions about you. Said she was your sister, wanted to know if I'd noticed any strange behavior from you. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? Nothing, dear. I don't gossip about neighbors. But she seemed very insistent, kept saying she was worried about you living alone. Even asked if I'd heard any disturbances at night. Jennifer was building a case, just as David had warned. She was trying to establish a pattern of concerning behavior that didn't exist, creating witnesses to problems that had never occurred. The realization that my own sister was orchestrating this campaign against me was devastating. That evening, I installed security cameras in my apartment, both for evidence and for my own peace of mind. If Jennifer was going to make claims about my behavior, I wanted proof of what really happened. The cameras would become crucial sooner than I expected. Update 1. 2 weeks later. The security cameras caught something I hadn't anticipated. Last Tuesday at 3 p.m., while I was at work, my apartment door opened. Jennifer walked in using a key I'd never given her. She moved through my apartment methodically, taking photos with her phone, of my medicine cabinet, my refrigerator contents, my desk where bills were stacked. She spent 40 minutes documenting my life without my knowledge or consent. I only discovered this because I'd gotten a motion alert on my phone but had been in a meeting. When I reviewed the footage that evening, I was shocked. How had she gotten a key? Then I remembered, I'd given my parents a spare key for emergencies. Obviously, Jennifer had made herself a copy. I immediately called a locksmith and had my locks changed. Then I confronted my parents, showing them the footage on my laptop. Their reaction wasn't what I'd expected. She's just worried about you, my mother said weakly. She broke into my home. I shouted, losing my composure for the first time in this whole ordeal. She didn't break in, my father corrected. She had a key. And frankly, Michael, your reaction right now is concerning. This paranoia, these cameras, it's not normal. I stared at them in disbelief. My sister had literally committed a crime, and somehow I was the problem for catching her doing it. That's when I realized how deep Jennifer's poison had spread. She'd convinced them so thoroughly that I was unstable that even clear evidence of her wrongdoing was twisted into proof of my paranoia. That night, I called David again and played him the footage. This is criminal trespass at minimum, he said. You could press charges. Against my sister? My parents would never forgive me. Mike, your parents are already lost to whatever story she's spinning. You need to protect yourself legally. At the very least, send her a formal cease and desist letter. I can help you draft it. I agreed, and we spent the next hour crafting a letter that made it clear Jennifer was not welcome in my apartment and that any further unauthorized entry would result in legal action. I sent it via certified mail and email, keeping copies of everything. Update 2. 1 month later. The cease and desist letter triggered an explosion I should have anticipated. Jennifer called our parents in hysterics, claiming I was threatening her and that this was further proof of my deteriorating mental state. She spun the security cameras as paranoid delusions, the letter as aggressive behavior, and my refusal to let her help as isolation tactics common in people experiencing mental health crises. My parents demanded a family meeting. Against my better judgment and David's explicit advice, I agreed. We met at their house on a Sunday afternoon. Jennifer had prepared a presentation. An actual PowerPoint presentation about my supposed mental decline. She had photos from my apartment, the one she'd taken during her break-in, highlighting concerns. A few dishes in the sink became inability to maintain living space. Some work papers on my desk were obsessive documentation. The security cameras were paranoid delusions of persecution. Michael, she said, clicking through slides, we've all noticed changes in your behavior. The isolation, the paranoia, the aggressive responses to family concern. I've consulted with professionals. What professionals? I interrupted. She ignored me. And they agree these could be signs of a serious mental health condition. With the stress of the new apartment, your demanding job, it's not surprising you're struggling. I sat there, mouth open, as she presented a completely fabricated version of my life. According to her slides, I was missing work, I wasn't, alienating friends, also false, and showing signs of delusional thinking, unless recognizing manipulation counts as delusional. This is insane, I finally said. You're literally making things up. See. Jennifer turned to our parents. The inability to recognize his own behavior, the projection, calling me insane when we're trying to help. It's textbook. My mother was crying. My father looked grim. They'd bought into this completely. What do you want? I asked Jennifer directly. What's your endgame here? She put on her concerned face. I want you to get help. And maybe you need someone to help manage things while you focus on getting better. The apartment is a lot of responsibility, and your finances. There it was. David had been right from the beginning. You want my apartment, I said flatly. Or control over it. That's what this has always been about. Michael. My mother gasped. How can you accuse your sister of something so horrible? Because it's true. I stood up. She's been building this case for months, trying to establish grounds for guardianship or power of attorney. She wants control of my assets. Jennifer's mask slipped for just a second, a flash of cold calculation before the concerned sister act resumed. But I'd seen it, and I knew I was right. I left without another word. There was no point arguing with people who'd already decided I was crazy. But I wasn't going down without a fight. Update 3, 6 weeks later. After the family meeting, I took David's advice and hired an actual attorney, a woman named Sarah who specialized in elder law and guardianship cases. You're right to be concerned, she told me after reviewing everything I'd documented. Your sister is following a playbook we see in financial abuse cases. The difference is you're young and healthy, which makes it harder for her but not impossible. Sarah helped me take several protective steps. We filed paperwork with the court explicitly stating I was of sound mind and did not consent to any guardianship or power of attorney. We got statements from my employer about my excellent performance reviews and perfect attendance. We even had my doctor provide a letter stating I had no mental health diagnoses and appeared completely competent during my recent physical. 2 weeks ago, Jennifer escalated again. She somehow convinced our parents to do a wellness check on me. I came home from work to find police officers at my door, with my parents and Jennifer standing behind them looking concerned. We got a call about a welfare check, the officer explained. Your family is worried you might be a danger to yourself. I stayed calm, invited them in, showed them my clean, organized apartment. I explained the situation briefly. Family dispute over my independence, sister trying to gain control of my assets. The officers were professional but clearly skeptical until I showed them the cease and desist letter and the security footage of Jennifer's break-in. Ma'am, one officer turned to Jennifer, entering someone's home without permission is a crime, regardless of your relationship. If your brother wants to press charges. He's not well. Jennifer interrupted. He doesn't know what he's doing. The officer looked at me, clearly competent and calm, then back at Jennifer, who was becoming increasingly agitated. Sir, do you want to file a report? I looked at my parents' faces, my mother crying, my father stone-faced, and made a decision. Not at this time. But I want this wellness check documented as unfounded, and I want it noted that I've asked my family to respect my boundaries. The officers made their notes and left. My family left too, but not before Jennifer hissed, "This isn't over. When you finally break down, when you finally admit you need help, don't expect me to clean up your mess." Update 4. 4 months after initial post. Today was the day Jennifer showed her full hand. She arrived at my apartment with our parents and a man in a suit who introduced himself as Richard Hartley, an attorney specializing in guardianship law. I didn't let them in, but spoke to them through my doorbell camera. Yes, I'd upgraded my security system. Michael, the attorney said smoothly, your family has concerns about your capacity to manage your affairs. They're considering filing for guardianship to ensure your well-being and financial security. On what grounds? I asked, proud of how steady my voice remained. Jennifer jumped in. We have documentation of erratic behavior, paranoid delusions, inability to maintain family relationships, aggressive responses to concern. You mean the false reports you've been spreading, the break-in I have on camera, and my refusal to let you control my life? The attorney looked uncomfortable. Clearly, Jennifer hadn't mentioned the security footage or the cease and desist letter in her version of events. Michael, my father spoke for the first time in weeks. We just want what's best for you. The apartment, the isolation, pushing family away, it's not healthy. Let Jennifer help you manage things. She has your best interests at heart. I laughed. I couldn't help it. She has my apartment's best interests at heart, you mean? How dare you? Jennifer's mask finally cracked completely. I've spent months trying to help you, and this is how you repay me? You're sick, Michael. You need supervision. You can't handle adult responsibilities. Interesting, I said calmly. Richard, did Jennifer mention that she illegally entered my apartment and photographed my belongings? Did she mention the cease and desist letter? Did she tell you I have written statements from my employer, doctor, and financial advisor attesting to my complete competence? The attorney's face told me she hadn't. Furthermore, I continued, I've already filed protective documentation with the court. Any attempt to establish guardianship will be met with vigorous legal challenge. I have my own attorney, Sarah Mitchell. You might know her. She's quite accomplished in defeating fraudulent guardianship attempts. Richard Hartley definitely knew her. His expression shifted from confident to concerned. I'd also like to note, I added, that I'm recording this interaction. My sister just admitted to spending months orchestrating this situation. That could be construed as conspiracy to commit financial fraud. The attorney physically stepped back. I think I need to review the facts of this case more thoroughly, he said carefully. Mr. Thompson, I apologize for the intrusion. Jennifer turned on him. What are you doing? I hired you to. You hired me to pursue a legitimate guardianship case, he interrupted. This doesn't appear to be that. Good day. He left. My parents stood there, looking lost. For the first time, I saw doubt creeping into their expressions. He's manipulating you. Jennifer shrieked at them. Can't you see? This is exactly what mentally ill people do. They convince everyone they're fine while spiraling. Jennifer, my mother said quietly, stop. Resolution. That was 3 weeks ago. The aftermath has been both painful and liberating. My parents finally started seeing through Jennifer's lies when Richard Hartley formally withdrew from her case and actually sent them a letter suggesting they reassess the situation with fresh eyes. The security footage, the documentation, the sheer extremity of Jennifer's behavior, it all finally broke through their denial. My mother called me last week, crying. Michael, I'm so sorry. We believed her because she was so convincing. And you did seem stressed, but now I realize it was because of what she was doing to you. I wanted to be angry, but mostly I just felt tired. Why, Mom? Why did she do this? I think she's in financial trouble. Your father found out she's been struggling at work, might lose her job. And seeing you buy that apartment when she can barely make rent, I think it broke something in her. It wasn't an excuse, but it was an explanation. Jennifer had always needed to be the successful one, the one in control. My independence and success threatened her self-image, and rather than deal with her own issues, she tried to tear me down. My father and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. He admitted that Jennifer had been borrowing money from them for months, spinning stories about temporary cash flow issues while maintaining her image of success. The cognitive dissonance of seeing her younger brother achieve what she couldn't had driven her to desperate measures. As for Jennifer, she's effectively exiled herself from the family. After her scheme fell apart, she sent a vicious email calling me a manipulator, our parents' enablers, and threatening to cut contact unless everyone admitted she was right about my mental illness. No one responded. Last I heard, she'd moved to another city, telling people her family had betrayed her. I've learned a lot from this experience. I learned that family can become your biggest threat when money and pride are involved. I learned the importance of documentation and legal protection. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, even when everyone around you is saying you're the problem. My apartment no longer feels like just a home. It's a symbol of my independence, something I fought to keep against someone who claimed to love me while trying to destroy me. The security cameras are still there, not out of paranoia but as a reminder that vigilance is sometimes necessary, even with family. David jokes that I've become his most prepared friend, legally speaking. Sarah, my attorney, has become a trusted advisor who helped me set up additional protections for my assets. My employer, once they understood the full situation, has been incredibly supportive, even offering employee assistance program resources if I needed therapy to process the family trauma. I did take them up on that offer. Not because I was mentally ill, as Jennifer claimed, but because being gaslit by your entire family leaves scars. My therapist has helped me understand that Jennifer's behavior was a form of abuse, that my responses were normal and healthy, and that protecting myself wasn't paranoid but necessary. The strangest part is the grief. I grieve for the sister I thought I had, the one who didn't exist. I grieve for the months of family dinners that became interrogations, for the trust that was shattered, for the simplicity of believing family always has your best interests at heart. But there's also relief. The truth is out. The manipulation has ended. My life is my own, my apartment is my sanctuary, and my future is secure from those who would use love as a weapon to control and destroy. To anyone reading this who recognizes their own situation in my story, document everything. Trust your instincts. Get legal help early. Don't let family ties blind you to abuse. And remember, protecting yourself isn't paranoid when someone is actually trying to harm you. My name is Michael. I'm 28 years old. I own my apartment free and clear of anyone's control. I am not mentally ill. I am not paranoid. I am a survivor of familial financial abuse who refused to be a victim. And that's the truth, no matter what anyone says.